Hey, this is Brandon McManus, Denver Broncos Super Bowl champion, and you listen to The Scoop on alscoop.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Scoop. This is Season 5, Episode 45. I'm John DeCarlo, Sam Newman, Sam Cohn with me again. And our special guest this week, we're thrilled to have Damian Dunn with us this week on The Scoop. Damian, you were on our podcast last year, but we were able to do it in person over at the facility. Obviously, things are different now. I can't think of a harder and more confusing and anxious year than 2020, and it's still not over yet. But we really, really appreciate your time with us here. I mean, just a general life question to lead things off. I mean, how are you doing with everything before we get, people want to hear us talk about basketball, but it would be irresponsible if we didn't talk about life first and everything that's going on in the world. How are you doing, and how has life been for you ever since we had to go back home in mid-March and you guys had to start learning remotely? Like, what's been going on in your life and how you feel?
Well, I appreciate you guys for having me on the podcast. But besides that, everything's well. I'm just really focused on, just kind of staying to myself right now, staying healthy, staying out the way, and just with everything going on, especially here in Atlanta, Georgia. Before a few weeks ago, the whole the protest and, the looting, rioting and stuff, it was kind of a big thing, and it's, it was kind of, moving from city to city, a little bit closer to where I stay. So, just really, kind of staying out the way of that. And, just kind of just keeping myself busy at home, really. That's kind of what's been going on with me.
And Damian, you guys as college athletes are returning to campus at some point during an unprecedented time where, as a country, working through issues of racial and social injustice, and then you're coming back to campus while still working through the COVID-19 pandemic. So it might sound like kind of a simple question, but for such a complex and heavy set of circumstances, how are you feeling? Like, as a school year's approaching, we're kind of getting close to getting back on campus. How are you feeling about everything that's been going on?
Well, I'm certainly eager, just to be back on campus, just to be back in Philly, just to walk on campus again, but just taking into consideration of, everything that's going on, whether it's, my safety or, my health, or even my teammates or everyone else who's, soon to return to campus, that scenario, just making sure, everything is kind of, clear cut in terms of just us, just being safe and, just not having to really worried about too much of what's going on, outside. I just feel like, everyone's kind of anxious to get back, and, we're all waiting for the say-so to just pack up everything and come back, and just be together again. But, in regards of right now, we're just kind of being patient. Everyone understands the severity of everything that's been going on, and everyone, I don't think, really has a problem with that. So, I'm willing to, just sit back, relax some, wait for the time to come to just return, make sure everything, clears its way a little bit, and we'll go from there.
Hey, Damian, Aaron and his son and JP Mormon were among the people who marched in the protest last month in Philly. And Aaron has taken part in several conversations and several forums about racial and social injustice. From the outside looking in, it looks like there's a culture of compassion and thought about these things in the program. Is that the case? And if so, does that bring you some comfort heading into the season, knowing that your coach and your teammates have made these things a priority?
Yeah, especially speaking for Coach McKie, I feel like the major voice in Philadelphia, in the city, outside of the basketball world, he has his platform, it's spread it amongst, a lot of people, and his voice definitely gets through and across a bunch of people who, who listens and understands where he's coming from. And, I just feel like, as a team, that kind of trembles down to us. We kind of see everything that he's doing. And, we even talked about it as a team with JP going out and protesting himself, just being out there, and just showing up, that kind of just resembles, just the person that Coach McKie is, everything that he's talking to us about, encouraging us to get out and protest, peacefully. And, and it's really like someone that we look up to, and we're just kind of grateful for to just be someone that we can see and interact with every day on a daily basis, on the court and even off.
Damian, as people do come back to campus, we asked Isaiah Graham Mobley this a few weeks ago when we had him on our podcast, and he had a big role in helping to lead Temple's contingent of student athletes too in that protest. What would your advice be to people in terms of how they can be an ally during this thing? It's one thing, we see people post stuff on social media, and sometimes I think we say, okay, well, all right, how much does that help? Do you really mean it? Like, what can people do? I know it's a simple question to like a really complex problem, but how do you think people can be an ally during this time, especially when people are coming back to campus with during, again, I know it sounds cliche, but a really unprecedented time? What would your advice be to students, faculty, staff at Temple? How can they be an ally during this movement? Because again, it's not just one thing. It has to be an ongoing process and a movement.
Right. Well, in my opinion, our voice, only goes, a certain goes, as far as some people wants it to go. And, in my opinion, I feel like it's more so of a thing that you have to just take action for instead of just our voice. Our voices are always good to use, and once we combine the thousands or millions of voices that, just speaking out on the problems and issues that we're having today, it's good. But, I just feel like once until it starts with, from top to bottom, just saying, okay, we're going to create something to basically just show our efforts and, want to basically fix and solve this problem that's going on today. Whether faculty or, gathering all student athletes to create a program where we're voicing our opinions and doing things around campus when we get back to, kind of devote with everything that's going on. And, I just feel like, that's something that possibly should be implemented and talked about because it's important, and I feel like everyone, we kind of want to see that change, and it's kind of necessary right now. And, I'm just, I'm ready to, involve myself in anything that in those terms, whether it's fixing the racial issue or, voting, whatever I have to do to involve myself in it, I'm willing to do it. I'm pretty sure my teammates, all our staff are, they're on the same page as well.
Does it help to have different perspectives on this? And when you look at the team geographically, you're down in Atlanta, Quincy's down there. You have Jeremiah, who I know you haven't gotten the chance to get to know really well in person just yet. He's coming from Chicago. You have people from New Jersey, kind of all over the country. Does it help to have those different perspectives and they're seeing different things throughout the summer in their communities? Does it kind of help in those conversations?
For sure. We all come from our different backgrounds and, different things are happening in different places. Like you said, we have like a few guys here in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm at, some guys in Chicago, Jersey, Philadelphia, Baltimore, we got guys everywhere. Just feel like once everyone comes together and we're able to sit down and have a conversation on what's really been going on in your city, my city, and I feel like we'll be able to compare those things and, talk about it and eventually come up with a solution to, better the situation for ourselves and the people that we're leaving back at home.
For you personally as a basketball player, you had the foot injury prior to last season. Aaron said so many times that he wanted to be very careful about bringing you back and was really protective of your future. You played in that one game back on January 3rd at Tulsa. You played 18 minutes, and then they kind of put you back on the shelf after that for the rest of the season to heal. I know, you're hoping for the redshirt season, the medical redshirt season. That's still to be determined. But when you look back at things, what was it like to get hurt and have to wait and come back and then basically go back to waiting again and healing again? What was it like to kind of go through all that this past season?
Well, it was definitely a roller coaster ride. If I had to put it in simple terms, it definitely had its ups and downs. Especially, just feeling like when you're a step closer to, being able to get back on the court, being back out there with your teammates, and then boom, something else happens and you have to go back into rehab another 2 weeks. And, you're just, it's just things that you just have to take with precaution. And I feel like Coach McKie and the rest of the staff, they did a very good job of, letting me take control of a lot of the situations and whether, if I felt comfortable with playing, and, you know, I feel like they did a good job of really hearing that out, respecting that, and also, you know, just telling me like, dang, like you have to chill out, like you're doing too much. Like, you know, I feel like it was kind of like a balance between, you know, the push and pull between me wanting to go out there and the coaches wanting me to go out there, you know, and, you know, just being injured like that for your first year is not really the thing that you're looking to for the most. And, you know, for me, it was kind of a learning lesson. You know, they put me out for 4 months, and, you know, 4 months I was on the scooter, you know, rolling into the facility, you know, every day, just sitting on the scooter and watching practice, you know, and you just kind of like, just start thinking about different things. You think ahead, you just, you know, it messed with me a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. And, you know, for me, it was kind of like, okay, you have to persevere through this. Like, you can't sob around, mope around, you know, you have to take this thing serious. And, you know, I had several conversations with my father and my brothers, and their main thing was just like, your time is coming. You just have to wait until you feel comfortable again, where you're fully healed, you know, just not where you feel like, okay, you're going through 2 weeks of rehab and you feel fine. Now you're ready to get out there again, you know, and the coaches know me, you know, I'm ready to, you know, I was ready to jump out the boot the second week of rehab and just start playing again. And, you know, I just had to take my time with everything, the whole injury, whether it's mentally and physically, and just, you know, just come back to a place where I felt comfortable enough to where I'll be able to, you know, be successful on the court again.
Damian, just to follow up on that, that Tulsa game was around the half point way of the season. Take us through that, take us through that moment for you of like, you're at the scorer's table about to check into your first game. How did it feel for you when you got into that game? Like, playing in January, did you still feel like you had first game jitters? What were you tentative when you were going in and on the court? What was that like for you getting into that game?
Well, it was definitely nerve-wracking a little bit. You know, I checked in, and a lot of my teammates, you know, they really didn't realize that it was me checking into the game after, you know, we watched film and talked about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was really my first college game. You know, I played 18 minutes just coming off of an injury where, you know, I wasn't really didn't really feel 100% to play at my full potential, you know. But it was definitely nerve-wracking. I definitely had those first game jitters. You know, I believe I scored 1 point. I got a free throw. I made a free throw. And, you know, it was just looking back on it, watching film, just talking about it. You know, it was just kind of where I always remember, you know, kind of where I started. And, you know, once next season comes around, it's like kind of like a motivational thing for me to, you know, just to kind of like push through that and, you know, be a lot much better than I was, you know, that first time around.
On a similar note, I mean, every college basketball player goes through the same process of playing high school basketball. And then when you get to the college level, it's a totally different game. It's a much faster pace, much harder game. And although you only played 18 minutes in one game, did you feel like you were kind of thrown in? Did you have that moment of like swivel, like keeping your head on a swivel of like, holy crap, this is where I'm at? Or were you kind of comfortable pretty quickly?
For sure. I definitely had that, you know, that second relapse of, you know, my whereabouts sometimes, you know, looking around, you know, kind of find myself trying to catch up to the pace of everything that's going on. You know, being out there, you know, that was my first time, you know, really being on the college floor with other guys who've been playing for a minute. You know, it was just really a thing where I was just trying to find myself and get comfortable, you know, and, you know, at the time, during the flow of the game, it kind of wasn't really going in our favor. Everything was going downhill. I think Tulsa pretty much had a lead on us throughout the whole game. So, you know, for me, it was really just trying to, you know, catch up. You know, I really felt like I was a few steps behind, you know, and watching film, you know, I kind of saw myself in that, you know, certain aspects of the game where I was a little bit laps behind everyone, you know, and just me, like I said before, me looking back on it, you know, it just makes me want to, you know, not look like that again. You know, I feel like I really didn't put myself out there, and then I really wasn't, you know, who I really think I could be as a player on the basketball floor.
Amy, before I get into, we have a couple of reader mailbag questions here, but the thought of this now, I'm just seeing you in that Bahamas t-shirt. You played well last summer, and the buzz coming out of there was that you played really well. And I know the coaches were high on you, your teammates were high on you. And some people were saying like, hey, you know, don't be surprised if he pushes for a starting role. People just really liked how you played there. a two-part question for you. What do you think you did well on that trip? And the second part would be, did it make it that more frustrating because you had some momentum coming off of that trip and then boom, you hurt your foot?
Yeah. Well, in the Bahamas trip, like you said, I really feel like, I did have a pretty solid outing in those 3 games. I feel like I did a lot of things, whether it's scoring wise, just playmaking, just showing a little bit of my versatility, whether it's playing shooting guard, point guard, catching it off the rebound, pushing it on the break, getting plays started, that type of thing, facilitating a little bit, playing defense, and I feel like, that's kind of a thing that, I really, did. And going into the Bahamas, I really felt like, I really had something to prove, but I really didn't try too hard to, I have to really go out here and prove myself to a lot of people and show them that I could play, and that really wasn't the thing for me. I was just really out there playing free will, comfortable, and I was comfortable with the guys that I was playing with, the momentum that we built, the just being coached, under a little bit of the college scene, playing against professionals, just that whole area. And for sure, like after the trip, after, like you said, building up the momentum and boom, everything happens, great. And really, it took a toll on me the first few weeks, just kind of thinking about everything that was going on and kind of the scenario that I felt that I would have put myself in, to start the season off. You know, after everything happened, it was kind of like more of a shock to me, just being in my first year and just having to bounce back from that. It was definitely frustrating along the way, but I'm here now. I'm grateful for the injury. I'm grateful for the bounce back. Everything that's yet to come, all the rehab sessions, the long, hard mornings of stress, that type of thing. I'm grateful for that. And like I said, I'm here now, and I'm just eager and waiting to get back on the floor again and showcase my talents.
So we have the first mailbag question here. This is from the screen names from our message boards. Is Temple J. It says, "Welcome to the family. Coach describes you as a Philly guard. What do you consider to be your best attribute, whether it's defense, scoring, or creating for others?"
For me, I would say, I'm a scorer, who likes to get others involved as well. I play at my own pace, not really sped up a lot. I try my best to limit turnovers, and I'm tough, I'm a competitor. Whether it's going at my teammates in practice or, finding an opponent who I think that I could take advantage of the whole game, just going at him. I feel like that's really my best attributes, on the floor. Just being a Temple guard is, it's good. Hearing that from someone else, just knowing the reality of being a Temple guard, you just have to be tough. Mentally, physically, you just have to be able to be durable through whether it's injuries, in my case, things that you go through on the floor during game time, coaches yelling at you, getting on you, just being able to endure through that and go through that and still perform at a high level.
Just following up on that, and I think we might have talked about this last summer when Temple J says this, Coach describes you as a Philly guard, and when I think we probably talked about this last summer. Aaron means that as a compliment when he says that, and that, and you're not from Philly, but his eyes kind of light up a little differently when he talks about you, whether it was when you were coming to Temple or whether it was after the Bahamas trip. So my question to you is, and you mentioned it just now, you don't allow yourself to get sped up too much. You play at your own pace. Where does that play style come from? Because not everybody's like that. Some guys want to go 100 miles an hour, and that suits them. But you've talked about before, like playing your own pace, being a little bit more smooth. Is that just a natural thing for you, or did you kind of try to emulate someone else's style growing up?
Yeah, well, growing up, I got a lot of questions about that. People, they always ask me, why was I so slow, or why did I play so smooth, and I just feel like, for me, it's always just been a natural thing. Even my dad growing up, he's like, dude, like, I don't know why you're playing so slow. Like, you have to speed it up some. And I'm like, no, like, that's just how I am. That's just the player that I am. And growing up in North Carolina, in Kinston, you see guys like, like Brandon Ingram, and you see old highlights of Jerry, kind of like the pace that they play with, turning it on and off, boom, getting the spots, changing their pace, playing, with the smoothness to their game, and it's, kind of, for me, it was kind of emulating that just a little bit, taking away those kind of things from their games, just kind of creating it and molding it into my own game, and I just feel like for me, it's kind of gotten me to Temple, and I'm pretty thankful for that.
When you look back at last season, you had a lot of opportunity to just kind of watch and take things in. You guys got off to that 9-3 start. You win the conference opener at UCF. The calendar changes to 2020, and then there was the Tulsa game, that first one you played in. But the team as a whole kind of had a bit of a tailspin after that. You lost 7 out of the next 8 games and never really felt like it was the same Temple basketball team. In your words or in your eyes, what do you think kind of went wrong or what happened?
Well, like you said, we built up a little momentum, and when adversity hits, different teams and people, they respond to it in different ways, and I feel like everything, kind of really, we started to see things like you said go into tailspin, after the Tulsa game, and that's when, I feel like that was really the first case of adversity, that we ever hit. Like you say, going into that 9-3 start, we felt like we really had a thing going on, and boom, we get beat by 30 plus points almost, and it's kind of like, dang, we're all sitting back in the locker room like this is the first time we're losing like this. Like, what are we doing? And, just watching it, watching the film, being in the locker room after the games, watching guys, how they react to it. It was kind of like a togetherness thing where, people were, they believe some things, some guys, just pulling away from certain things, and we all had our own ways of going about handling the adversity, and I feel like that's the area where we kind of lacked, and the area where we had so much room to grow in is just being able to respond to that adversity, not really let it get the best of us, and I think we kind of let that Tulsa game tremble down to the next 10, the next 12, and then it just started to become a pattern that was just unhealthy for us, and we just ended up with the season that we had.
Damian, from what we could see, you were still able to practice as you continue to work your way back from the foot injury. What sort of feedback did you get from the coaches in terms of what they wanted you to work on, and where do you think you made some progress with your game?
Well, just being able to practice, work out and stuff, working out with some coaches, their main thing for me is just, being able to shoot the 3 ball, more comfortably and, at a higher rate than I was shooting it at. And for me, my own thing was just being able to be in shape, being able to play 20, 25 minutes at a fast pace, at 100% the whole game. That was mainly the thing for me, coming back from an injury, 4 months off, you're not touching the ball, you're not walking around, you can't run, you're kind of going to be behind in that area of conditioning and stuff like that. So my main thing was just making sure that I was in the best shape of my life, pretty much. My coach's thing was just make sure, you're getting reps at the 3 ball, because we all know that, at the college level, you have to be able to shoot those at a high percentage, to just be successful, whether it's for yourself or setting up your teammates as well. And, I feel like really those two were the main thing, that kind of stood out in areas of progress for me.
Damon, one of the other things that's taken place is kind of a roster overhaul. Josh Pierre-Louis, Justin Hamilton, Monty Scott decided to transfer. Nate declares for the draft after graduating in 3 years. Did you kind of know this was coming? Is this something that was kind of like building up, or did any of it kind of like just take you by surprise, or was it kind of just a natural progression where you kind of thought some of this might happen?
Well, throughout the season, for me, I could say, I saw it coming, but at the same time, I didn't, losing Justin and Josh, Nate and Monty, those guys, they helped us out in a lot of ways, and their whole dynamic, just those 4, just being able to bring their different backgrounds to Temple and, the type of style of game that they provided for us, and just having that being able to lost and, just having to bounce back from that with bringing new guys in, it just kind of shocked me a little bit. But, at the same time, this whole college basketball, it's still a business at the same time, and, I understand it. I wish those guys the best of luck, wherever they're headed, and for the new guys that's coming in, I'm welcoming them to the family as well, just like those guys did with me last year, just talking to them, getting to know them once we're back on, getting to work out with those guys, something I'm looking forward to.
Damian, the flip side of that is there's a tremendous opportunity with all the new guys coming in. Jaleel White, Quincy Adamakoya, Nick Jordan, Jeremiah Williams for the 2020 class, and then 2 transfers in Caleb Battle and Sage Tolbert. What do you know of those guys so far, and what's it like to have that much new talent coming into the program?
Well, I really haven't had the chance to really sit down and watch those guys, but I can speak for Quincy. We played each other. My senior year of high school, we played those guys, and just knowing Quincy, what type of player he is on the basketball court, and just having all of those guys being able to be a part of our team and our family, it's just, it's kind of a good thing. It's kind of a legacy that we're able to build together with adding 6 new guys, like you said, to the roster, and even myself, not playing last year as well. So in my opinion, I just look at it as a good thing. We're about to build something, and and I just feel like along the way we're gonna have our bumps in the road because we're a brand new team. We're including me and Ty and the 6 new guys. We're 8 fresh faces coming in, and a lot of people don't know who we are. So I feel like we have a lot to carry on our shoulders, whether it's playing with a chip, just wanting people to know who we are once we step in the gym. And I just feel like that's something that we're all looking forward to, just being able to play with each other, build this chemistry with each other, just to get this thing kicked off.
From a chemistry standpoint, as you said, it's essentially 8 new guys if you include you and Tai Strickland. What have you been able to do, or what can you start to do to build that chemistry with so many new faces on the roster during a time when you really haven't been able to be at school and in the gym with those guys like you normally would?
Well, for me, at that point, it just comes to just getting to know those guys, outside of basketball. Just talking to those guys, whether it's through text, through the group chat, or FaceTiming those guys just to say, like, what's up, bro? Like, what you up to? Like, what you doing today? Like, just those type of things. Just, I feel like now is a good time to where we can actually start to build this chemistry, like I was talking about before, where we don't really have the ability to go into a gym, work together, compete against each other, make ourselves better. And I just feel like now is a time where, it's more so of like a call each other up thing, get to introduce yourself, we go from there.
Amy, you mentioned you got the chance to play against Quincy Adamakoya. I haven't seen him live yet, but I hear a lot of great things about him, and he looks like he can shoot the hell out of the ball. What can you tell us about him? Again, I know you haven't had the chance to or maybe you have had the chance to, I don't know if you've had the chance to catch up with him over the summer, but what can you tell Temple fans about him? Because, again, I've only seen footage of his highlights, but he does look like a guy who could potentially step in and really make an impact right away.
Like you said, you described him in one word. He's a shooter. He's a knockdown shooter. He's a sniper. And, just playing against him, he was a junior my senior year. I kind of noticed that. And, I really didn't notice that was him until he came on his visit. And, we kind of talked about the game, that type of thing. And after he left, I kind of rewatched the game. Just knowing Quincy, who he is, a shooter, someone who can get to his spots off the dribble, getting guys in the air off the 3-line, getting to the mid-range area, being able to make plays out of there, getting to the rim, finishing well. I just feel like that's pretty much Quincy for you. I feel like he's able to have a major impact on our team, as long as he's willing to work, accept the work, being able to get better, whether it's on the court, in the weight room as well. I just feel like, that's for all the guys and even myself, just willing to work, being able to accept the criticism, the adversity that's going to come with it, whether it's from teammates, the coaches, being able to take that and grow. I feel like we all have tons of room to grow, and I feel like we can really be a great team in the future here, and it starts now with being able to get into the gym, work with each other,
Damian, you're originally from Kinston, North Carolina, as you mentioned before, which has become more well-known because of the number of basketball players that have come out of there, like Cedric Maxwell, Jerry Stackhouse, Brendan Ingram, and Reggie Bullock, to name a few. UNC coach Roy Williams has been quoted as saying that if he's heard there's a player from Kinston, he'd go there quicker than New York City. What's the basketball culture like in your hometown, and how did it influence your upbringing?
It's definitely the way of life, if I had to put it in simple terms. Everyone from Kinston, it's kind of like a three-way street with everything that goes. You're either in the streets doing no good for yourself and your family. You're incarcerated, going to jail, or you're finding your way out of the city playing basketball or sports, period. And for me, I found myself, getting into the basketball thing when we first moved back there around, I was like 12 or something like that. I really can't remember. But yeah, growing up in Kinston, basketball it's pretty much life. Everyone there plays, after school, you have guys walking almost 10 miles to go to the basketball gym, not even to play, just to sit and watch. Every weekend we have tournaments. You have like 6 gyms in Kinston, and you go in any last one of them, and all the seats are filled up. It's a small city where everybody knows everybody. It's just like any other small city has its problems, whether it's crime, stealing, the whole robbery thing, violence. It's deep in well. I feel like a lot of people look at basketball and baseball is kind of like their outlet to get away from that stuff and their struggles away from home. And that was kind of the thing for me, growing up. I initially had the love for basketball way before I could even remember. My dad put the ball in my hand when I was a baby, and it kind of just took off from there. So even growing up there, it kind of made me a lot more tougher, on the court and off the court and in life in general. You meet guys who's 3 years older than you. They want to pick on you when you get in the gym, talk crap about you, get you on the court, beat you up on the court. And, you're looking at it like, damn, like, why are you doing it? And years later, when you look back on it, it's like, I remember him. Like, we used to go at it in the gym together. And it's like, wow, like, he actually made me better that time. And it's a lot of that goes on, and I could say the same for a lot of people that's still there, growing up there, going to the gyms there. That's kind of, I just pretty much what's made me the basketball player that I am today, just growing up there.
Switching gears here, you were the first player to commit to Aaron McKie while he was the head coach in waiting at Temple. Since it was such a unique situation, what can you tell us about how Aaron recruited you and what made you ultimately end up choosing Temple?
Well, Coach McKie, he really started recruiting me. It was after a session, I played on Adidas Gauntlet. I believe it was after a session in Dallas. I got the phone call from him, and, we talked, we talked briefly on the phone, and, he kept it very honest with me and, told me not what I wanted to hear, but, he's already telling me, where he thinks that I could get better at, just off the first conversation. It kind of just thinking about it while we're on the phone, you like kind of look at it like sideways, like, wow, for me, I appreciate that, and just being able to talk to him more, the more conversations that we had, and then Coach Clark hopping on the scene with recruiting me as well. It just I just found myself, drawing more towards those guys and, just being more interested in what those guys had to say, whether it's coming to see me at Meadowcreek, just to work out, talking to those guys on the phone, and it's, just engaging in the conversation that we had every single time more and more, and I just appreciated that. And ultimately, I made the decision to come to Temple 2 weeks after I left, and I made the decision to come. So, so that's pretty much what kind of drew me to Temple is really Coach McKie himself.
Yeah, last year you told us about how your father was really excited when you first got the call from Aaron McKie because he knew McKie was from the NBA and, had a great history there and at Temple. And then you started to Google him and find out more. What did you learn from that? And, how did that really form your opinion about him?
Just kind of reading about it, a guy who's, who doesn't really get the spotlight as much, but his teammates and everyone else who truly knows him, they won't let any of his work go underappreciated and unknown. And that's kind of like how I think of myself sometimes, kind of like the silent killer. And I feel like that's kind of who the guy Coach McKie was on the floor. A lot of people respected him and still respect him to this day, just because of the player that he was on the floor, and just, may have not have gotten the most recognition or the most all-star votes or whatever, all that type of thing. But, at the end of the day, when people speak on his name, you kind of know who he is and you respect him for the guy that he is, the player that he was, just a competitor, a tough competitor.
Quick follow-up here. Now that you're a year into being around Aaron as a head coach, what do you know about him now that you didn't before? And does he talk about his time in the NBA and with Allen Iverson that much? And what's he like as a true leader of a program?
He's definitely a motivator and somebody who's going to make you, uncomfortable when he's pushing you. He's a guy who's, not gonna lie, he's gonna get on you. He's gonna, when you're doing something wrong, he's gonna tell you. He's gonna point it out. He may make you feel a certain type of way, but at the end of the day, he just wants to make you better, and he's gonna push you to limits to where you don't even think that you could go. And I just feel like for me, that's someone that I just wanted to be coached by, on a day-to-day basis. Somebody that's not going to praise me all the time, when I'm doing good, or, just someone who's really going to get on me, even when I'm doing good, telling me that I could do more than what I'm producing. And I just feel like that's the guy who Coach McKie really is. He's just someone who's just, he really doesn't care whether, what you're doing on the floor. Either way, you're going to hear it from him. You can do so much more, and he knows that, you coming from every last one of us, whether it's 1 through 15 or 16, he's going to push you, and you just have to accept it. And at the end of the day, you appreciate it. And, I'm just thankful for it, just to have the opportunity to be in the gym with him every day, and, being coached by him, being yelled at him, just talking to him outside in his office, the conversations that we have on the phone, in person, I'm just grateful for all of that.
Damian, one of the things that I kind of started to pay close attention to during the time that we were able to see practice, sometimes we could get there for the last 15, 20 minutes, and then maybe you guys were doing drill work and stuff like that, was the progression with Tai Strickland. He sat out last season like you did, just as a transfer from Wisconsin. I think maybe a lot of people from the outside looking in, without knowing, felt like, Josh Pierre-Louis was going to be the point guard of the future. But now it looks like that spot is there for Tai to take. And again, from the outside looking in, it looks like he really kind of got tougher and became more confident and comfortable as the year went on. And I feel like Aaron and maybe even some of the guys in the program started talking about him differently. You could see the skill was there and the shiftiness was there, but it seemed like as the year went on, he started to get tougher and more comfortable. I think, I don't know if it was a few weeks ago, I can't remember if it was Coach Ross, Monty Ross, or Jimmy Fennerty, one of them that said by the end of the year, Tai was the one who was dishing out the toughness. And I just wanted to ask you about the progression that you saw with him, because, it sounds like that, he could be your starting point guard this year. And I wanted to ask you about what you saw from Tai from the beginning of practice to the end of the year.
Yeah, he's definitely grown in, in those terms of just being tough, and just getting better. Towards the end of the season, me and Tai, we were kind of like work buddies. We would wake up every morning, go lift together, or work out together, and we were doing that for a long time. Just the more that we do it, being able to talk to him and, kind of build a bond with Tai off the floor, we just kind of started to build kind of a connection, on the court. It kind of translated off and, when we were playing together. I could kind of agree with the fact that, he was, the one kind of making guys a little bit tougher. I could agree with that too. And just knowing that he did get a lot more comfortable and, having confidence in himself and being able to, and just knowing that he's able to do the things that he knows that he can do, whether it's getting past people, breaking guys down, making plays, getting to the cup, finishing, that type of thing. And I feel like his confidence level is just boosted tremendously throughout the year from start to finish. You know, I just feel like me and the rest of our teammates, we just put our trust in him. And the more that we did that, the more that his confidence grew. I just feel like Tai, you know, coming into it, he really didn't feel like our acceptance of, you know, of our trust wasn't really fully into him, you know. And as we went about the year, you know, we practiced, we battled it out together, me and him and the rest of the guards, the bigs, you know, we kind of looked at it like, okay, we're going to continue to push Tai. And boom, last, I'll say like 2.5 months of the year, you have brand new Tai. You know, he's scoring, he's talking trash to guys. He's just pushing guys to get better, and he even pushes me. You know, we battle each other in the weight room. We were doing that every morning, you know, and I just feel like he definitely made a lot of guys better. And, you know, I'm definitely looking forward, you know, to just playing together on the court this year and, you know, kind of getting back to that bond that we built and translating that back onto the floor.
So a quick follow-up about him, and he was on our podcast. I talked to him one day after practice, and he was just so cool to talk to and so easy to talk to. And I think I had asked him about this. I wanted to get your view on it. Obviously, he grows up as the son of a really, really good NBA point guard in Rod Strickland, who was one of the best in the league and one of the best to ever play the game. And I wondered what it was like for him growing up. Do you think guys from the outside say, oh, you're Rod Strickland's son? I wonder how good you really are. I'm going to kind of push you to see how tough you are. Do you think from the outside looking in, do you think like he dealt with that growing up? And even like when he comes to a new place, he'd be like, oh, you know, you're Rod's son, or how good are you? Or did you guys just not have that? Did you guys not think about that when you first met him?
Well, for us, I don't really feel like, you know, we really thought about that. You know, just being the son of a ex-NBA legend, you know, in terms, you know, I just feel like we looked at it as he's here to battle and compete just like the rest of us are, you know, no matter his background, you know. And I just feel like we really didn't look at Tai that way, as being just the son of, you know, Rod Strickland. You know, I just feel like, you know, he was there for a reason, just like we were all there, you know, just to work, compete. And, you know, I just feel like we were all there for a reason. And we kind of looked past, you know, his background of just being Rod Strickland's son in that aspect. But yeah, you know, I definitely feel like, you know, growing up, you know, I can only imagine, you know, just getting kind of, you know, that viewpoint of just people looking down and just being like, okay, you're Rod Strickland's son now. How well can you really play? You know, and I just feel like he definitely got a lot of that, you know, growing up, coming up as a basketball player. And, you know, yeah, like I said, you know, us as his teammates, we really didn't we looked past that. We weren't really into that.
So Damian, with Nate, Quentin, Alani Moore, and Damian Moore all moving on, who would you say are the leaders of the program right now, whether that be on the court or off the court, or kind of what these guys are facilitating? Who would you say the leaders are?
Well, right now I'd probably say our leaders, probably our seniors probably our upcoming seniors, you know, JP and Dre. You know, I feel like those guys they're very reliable in terms of getting things done. You know, they're kind of the guys who's willing to do all the dirty work, you know, who the guys who people don't really talk about, but we know their true value and the things that they really help us do. You know, I feel like without JP and Dre, we don't win a ton of the games that we won last year. You know, they're just guys, you know, they just provide a spark as soon as they get in, do a lot of things. You know, whether it's, you know, it doesn't even have to be scoring. You know, it could be boxing dudes out, hustle plays, you know, getting boards. And then you have them having the same ability to hit corner threes, hitting the open three, hitting the trail three as well. You know, and I just feel like, you know, they're key assets in our success. And they were definitely key assets in our success last year. You know, and I'm just for their campaign, like with those guys, and, you know, just giving those guys the best opportunity to have the best senior year that they can have.
Damian, now that we're into July, you guys are saying goodbye to Pat Kraft as your athletic director as he goes to Boston College, and Fran Dunphy is going to be the acting athletic director. I know you never played for him, but he was still the head coach when Aaron was recruiting you, and he was a part of that process. What are your thoughts on him taking over as the athletic director in an acting role?
Well, I'm actually happy for Coach Dunphy. Like you said, I never had the opportunity to play under him, but I've definitely had conversations with him. You know, I talked to him and got to know him on a deeper level on my visit back in September of last year or the year before last year. And, the guy that he is, that so many people pay him in the city of Philadelphia. I feel like, it's a position where, a lot of people, they're grateful to have Coach Dunphy in, and I feel like he's a perfect guy to represent, Temple University and Temple athletics. I just feel like he's the great fit, just to represent us in that way. Just knowing, his success, his legacy, the guy that he was. And like I said, the simple amount of respect that people just give him, when he walks in the room. And I just feel like he's just the perfect fit, as of right now. And for me, I hope that maybe that he's able to be able to be the long-term AD as well. So I'm happy for Coach Dunphy. I'm grateful for him to, be our acting AD as of right now.
And as of a couple days ago, Temple officially became a Nike school again. I guess where's your head at about that? How excited are you about the chance to be a Nike school?
I'm definitely excited. I broke my foot in a pair of Under Armours. I never. I'm excited. About that. I joked around with the coaches all year, kind of like a start to a new thing that we're about to build. The new start to our legacy. We're about to be a brand new team, a brand new organization under Nike now. We're playing with stripes on our feet now. So, we're just going to have this new kind of little bit of confidence with us when we step out on the floor and comfortable with us playing, just being on the floor.
Especially being a basketball school, I know Aaron McKie described Nike as the gold standard. Nike has such a huge presence in the basketball world. For you and for Temple basketball, do you think that it makes a difference in terms of recruiting?
Yeah, I that Coach McKie, he said that Nike basketball is the gold standard for us, and I feel like a lot of people, that engages a lot of people's decision, coming to high school, just the image of just seeing the Nike, on a uniform, it's just kind of like a thing where, most universities, they don't have the contract, but for us, we're brand new to it. And I feel like we're just, it's kind of like us being a part of a family and just being a part of elite company in that sense in the Nike era. So, I'm happy that that Temple signed the deal and that we're a part of that now. So I can't wait.
One more question about that. Do you know what pair of Nikes you plan on wearing this coming season? And was Nike your shoe before you got to Temple?
Actually, I was always an Adidas guy throughout high school, but in middle school, I only played in Kobe. I only played in Kobe 6s through 8s. Those were I ever played in. And so just getting back to that, hopefully I'll be able to do Kobe's this year. And they're a little bit pricey now with everything and his past and him not being with us no more. So, but yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to putting the checks back on, so I'm excited. I'm pumped.
Damian, we wanted to close things out with a couple more reader mailbag questions. This one actually just got texted to me. It's from Pat Egan. He's a big Temple fan. He's a producer at 97.5 The Fanatic, one of the morning shows here in Philly on Sports Talk Radio. Has a two-part question for you. Said, question number one, since Damian's not from Philly, what's an aspect of Philadelphia that he's surprised at how much he enjoys?
The food. You can ask anybody on our team that's a part of our organization that I love to eat. I was the one who was always last at the meal tables at the hotels. I was always the last one to leave, and everybody and the amount of food that I ate, but I love to eat. I just been to a lot of places in Philadelphia, where it's just great food, great culture, and it brings a lot of people together. So yeah, I always eat good in Philadelphia. I always eat good.
What's your favorite place to eat in the city?
Oh man, I know my coaches are going to be mad for saying this, but I took a few trips to the Reed Terminal Market, and I kind of ate I ate like a pig in there a few times. I ate like
Just going around the whole place.
going around visiting new places, Mediterranean food, and just eating, trying different things, and man, I fell in love. I kept going back.
So Brady, we won't tell your strength coach. We won't tell Brady Welsh about that. But I got into the same thing with Ty because he said he's a big Italian food fan. I gave him a list of some places to check out. Pat has his second question here. Who's the worst gamer on the team? Who's trash at 2K?
The worst gamer on the team? Oh man, that's actually a tough one because they're all not good. Nobody's really. If I had to pick one person though, that's coming back, I would have to say.
Now, Nate used to say he was the best on the team, but he's gone now.
Nate was terrible at 2K, but like Ty beat me one time in the summer, and he just ran with it and just started talking trash like the whole summer. Didn't get it, but yeah, but else is pretty good. Like I'm pretty sure JP will argue with me when this, but he's okay. I beat him a few times pretty easily. Dre, not really good. I beat Dre every time we play. Jake, we never played 2K because he knows.
It sounds like it's you, Damian.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're the best on the team.
I'm pretty much like the head honcho. Everybody for some reason.
Then one last reader mailbag question. The screen name is DBlaze75, and it's a two-part question. Question one: do you have any personal goals for the upcoming season? For example, like any numbers in mind or goals in mind for points, assists, rebounds, and steals per game?
Well, not exactly. D-Blaze. I've never been the one to kind of aim for self achievements in those terms. I just go out and I just play. Whatever the results are individually at the end of the game, they are what they are. I'm not one to ask for the stat sheet after the game. Look at my stats. I'm not that type. So I'm just I don't really have anything in mind in terms of individual achievements. So I'm just there to basically just help our team win games.
And the second part of his question is, who on the team are you closest to? Like, do you have a closest friend on the team?
Well, we're all pretty close with everybody that's coming back, the six of us that's coming back. But I'm pretty close with Dre. And I'll probably say Ty, because me and Ty, we spent a lot of time together the last few months. Just talking to Dre, just knowing that we kind of come from similar backgrounds, we, how we grew up, type of basketball we grew up seeing or playing, the things that we saw just growing up, and we kind of gelled like the first week that I was there. And, the more we talked, the more that, we just kind of built that brotherhood. Same goes for Ty.
Damian, this was so much fun, man. Thanks so much for taking as much time as you have today, for joining us. Stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll talk to you soon. Hopefully we'll get to see you on campus at some point.
Thank you guys for having me. You guys be safe this weekend.
Thanks, buddy. It's a big thank you to Damian Dunn for joining us on The Scoop. It was great to talk about basketball, talk about life with him. So hopefully there'll be a preseason to cover and a season to cover as we get back into the swing of things. But again, I want to thank him for his time on the podcast. So a few other things to close things out here. We've got some football recruiting updates since we last talked to you. Temple is at 10 verbal commitments now from the 2021 class. The latest being Christian Abraham, a 3-star defensive back, running back from St. Joe's up in Montville. Up in New Jersey, chose Temple over Virginia Tech. Pitt, James Madison. Sam Newman's had a couple of stories up on the site. Sam, you want to kind of update us on what's going on the football recruiting front?
Yeah, so with Abraham, that was their 10th commit for the 2021 class. Looks like he's going to be like a roving defensive back where he can, come down and blitz, or also playing coverage, anything like that. He prefers the defensive back position. This was this was a joint effort from Tyler Yelkin and Gabe Infante to really, get a 3-star prospect in Abraham, who had some extensive offers that go beyond Virginia Tech, Pitt, JMU. So this is a really great get for Temple. Abraham, he had a high ankle sprain that kind of took him out of a good chunk for his junior year. He could have really it didn't seem like it really affected his recruiting, but for him in the get-go, Temple was the school from the get-go, and they really did a good job of recruiting him and getting him to commit to really seal that deal and get their 10th commitment. On the other hand, also talked to Jason Henderson. That story's been up on the site as well. Henderson is from Delaware Valley High School. We've had his story up on the site before, and we've talked about him. He released his top 7 or top 8, I believe. I talked to him about that. We have a blurb about each school, but the 3 schools that really stood out were Syracuse, Temple, and JMU. To me, it sounds like, Syracuse, that allure of being a Power 5 school is going to be right there at the top, and JMU might have an edge over Temple right now. I'm not really sure, but Temple's that school where it's like, it's close, but not too close for him, and it might be, that one that he ends up choosing. They're going to really come down the mix, and he actually just tweeted that, he plans on making a decision soon. So that we'll wait to be seen, but that's another linebacker, somebody who's really made an impact for his school and in his region. I mean, I think talking to him, he said he has over 430 career tackles, which is pretty impressive at the high school level. So, that's another name to look out for in the coming days.
And then another player who has Temple in a top list or top 4 list is Henry Wilson Jr. He plays at St. Rita High School on the south side of Chicago. That top 4 list includes Boston College, Eastern Michigan, and Western Michigan. If he did ever commit to Temple, he'd be the second player from Chicago to commit in this 2021 class after Temple got Justin Lynch from Mount Carmel High School. Now, according to a source that we spoke with, we're told that the new Boston College staff hasn't reoffered him, so there's a chance there that it could just be between Temple, Eastern Michigan, and Western Michigan, so we'll see there. So again, as of now, Temple has 10 verbals from the 2021 class, if you're counting 3 from New Jersey with 1 from South Jersey and Johnny Martin III from Highland High School, 2 from Central North Jersey, depending on what you consider Central North Jersey, and Abraham and Rakeem Cooper from Mater Dei High School. Then you have 2 from Pennsylvania, 1 from the city at St. Joe's Prep, and Malik Cooper, another Gabe Infante pickup there, as Gabe was the former coach, a big-time high school coach at St. Joe's Prep. And then 1 from the Philly suburbs and Jordan Lodato from Henderson High School out in Westchester. You have 3 players from the DMV and Jalen Satchel, Jalen McMurray, and Jaden Coffin. And then you have Justin Lynch from Mount Carmel out in Chicago, and then Malachi Lowry from Auburndale High School in Florida. So as we've mentioned before, they've been able to get players from their recruiting footprint and then also maintain a presence in Jersey. Even as Rutgers has gotten a lot of verbals early on with Greg Schiano back, Temple still maintain a presence in Jersey, and then they've been able to dip into Florida and even Chicago as well. So super early in the process, but Temple has the 60th rated recruiting class in the nation and the 3rd best in the American behind Cincy and Memphis at this point. So we'll continue to have more recruiting coverage for you, as we say each week. I think it's going to be, as we've mentioned before, a really interesting, hopefully if there is college football and if at some point there can be an evaluation process and a high school season, we've talked about this before, I think you're going to see a very interesting fall where college programs and college coaches are going to see a situation where they might look at kids and look at their first 2 or 3 weeks of senior film and say, we really like this kid instead. And I think you'll see a lot of movement. But again, as of now, Temple has 10 verbals heading into July, and we'll of course keep you updated, and Sam's always on top of things. And Sam Cohen has a basketball recruiting update for us as well.
Yeah, so planning the next couple of days to speak with Justice Williams. He's a 6'4" Philly guard from Roman Catholic. He's transferring to Monteverdi Academy, and he is said to be one of the top kids in the country for the 2022 class. He's a really good guard. He's a Philly guard, and Temple's been in on him for the last couple months or so. So that's just something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Temple gets in on Justice Williams' recruitment. I mean, he's the 23rd ranked player in the 2022 class, was part of that big time incoming group at Roman. If Temple's in the mix for him, a year down the road, then Aaron McKie has really started to make an impact. But again, one of the top players, one of the elite players in that class. So we'll look forward to reading Sam's story there. We do have, before we get to a couple of remaining mailbag questions here from our friend Varun Kumar, and then a couple from D Blaze, scrolling through Twitter, Sam, Cone, and I like to bond sometimes, even though we're more than – how old are you now, Sam?
20.
Oh, 24 years apart. I'm 44, so 20. We bond over a lot of things. We bond over Back to the Future. Sam's a big Back to the Future fan. I saw that Sam liked a tweet today commemorating the 35-year anniversary of Back to the Future. So what's your favorite line from the movie?
I actually had this conversation like a couple of weeks ago with my dad, and I have no idea why, but the Back to the Future 2, when Marty's in the cafe and he has to get his son out of there because Biff is asking him to go do something that night and go get involved in some trouble. And Marty says to Griff, "What are you, deaf and stupid?" I said no. Either that one or in the first one when Marty is in 1955 and he goes to see Doc for the first time, and 1955 Doc doesn't know who he is, and Doc goes, "Okay, future boy, who's president in 1985?
My line.
And he says, "Ronald Reagan." Ronald Reagan, the actor, who's vice president? Jerry Lewis? I guess Jane Weinman's the first lady.
Yeah, that's my line. Sam Newman, have you seen Back to the Future?
I have, and I've seen all three of them, and I love the movies, but I could not. Well, actually, one of my favorite lines, I guess, is from like the school dance where he's calling his cousin, and he's like,
Chuck Berry.
Yeah, that's my favorite line.
Chuck, it's your cousin, Marvin Berry. You know that new sound you've been looking for? Well, listen to this. That scene's my favorite. From that whole scene of Marty doing Johnny Be Good is my favorite part.
That and the beginning of the movie where his band is auditioning for the talent show, and do you know who one of the judges is one of the talent show judges?
No.
Do you know who Huey Lewis is? Huey Lewis?
Oh, yeah, Huey Lewis in the News.
But Huey Lewis is the guy who says, stop.
Really?
I'm sorry, what does he say? You're just too damn loud.
Yeah.
That's Huey Lewis saying that.
I'm sorry, you're just too darn loud. That's funny because my dad showed me the movie when I was a lot younger, and I didn't know Huey Lewis in the News until then, and now I know probably every word to that soundtrack of that movie.
Yes. So yeah, thought I'd throw some Back to the Future stuff there. And that Marvin Berry line later came out in I Love You Man. You guys have seen that, right? Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Yeah, where they're practicing all the Rush songs. So I don't know.
Speaking of getting old, Sam Newman now 21 years old.
Yes. Oh God, I don't want to hear any of that.
Snaps for Sam being 21.
Your whole lives are ahead of you. Sam Newman shares a birthday with my brother, June 26th. I unfortunately share a birthday with someone I just don't even want to talk about on this podcast who gives us.
I unfortunately share one with Derek Jeter. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I'd rather share a birthday with Derek Jeter. But
I don't have any good ones. I'm like close to LeBron, but I don't have any good ones.
There you go. Wait, you're December, right?
Yeah, I'm the 22nd. LeBron's like the 30th.
Okay. So before we transition out of Back to the Future talk, I had a couple more mailbag questions here just for us as a staff. One from Varun Kumar, who's done some writing for us in the past at AlScoop, at VRKumar8 on Twitter. His question, what's your favorite off-the-radar summer cookout food? As we enter 4th of July weekend, we're recording this today on Friday. Tomorrow's the 4th of July. Favorite off-the-radar summer cookout food, guys? What do you have?
I don't know if this is like off the radar, but we smoke we have a smoker, so we smoke like chicken and pork butts and sausage, that sort of stuff. So I guess for us, it's like, pork butt probably, may have pulled pork. That's our Southern barbecue thing there. So
there you go.
Pulled pork's a good one. Hot dogs, 74 of them in 10 minutes. Joey Chestnut, 74 hot dogs, 10 minutes.
You were about to tell me that you once ate 74 hot dogs.
Oh, no.
If you say that and try to
I don't really have a good off the radar one. I mean, I'm a big burgers and dogs guy. I love pulled pork. I wouldn't say I have a good off the radar summer cookout food.
Yeah, I don't know.
Everything's on the radar with you.
Exactly. Everything's on my radar.
Yeah, I don't even. This sounds so boring. Maybe like a good like cucumber and tomato salad. I don't know if that's like you throw some like olive oil in there, some Italian stuff. I don't know.
I don't even know if this is off the radar, but mac and cheese. We always have mac and cheese too.
Yes. There we go.
John, anything like really Italian for the 4th of July?
Oh, not really. I mean, it's my mom's birthday tomorrow, so we asked her what she wanted to eat. I'm trying to cut back on, not that I eat a ton of red meat, but I'm not doing any steaks. My wife and I would probably do like salmon or something like that. We'll do hot dogs. Probably some sort of birthday cake for my mom, but I don't know. I can't really think of anything like off the radar, and I feel like we're disappointing Varun here, but I'll probably think of something good after.
Right as we finish recording.
Yes. And then a couple more questions here. 3 questions from DBlaze75. So question number 1. Never liked this term, but gun to your head, does Temple play Miami on September 5th to open the season? If not, later in the year? That's a great question. I understand it's on everybody's mind. I think it's, as of now, they're set to play the game. I think obviously everybody is on guard and everybody's kind of looking at what's happening in different places around the country. We would love to say that the United States has flattened the curve on this coronavirus, and we know that it hasn't. I don't know. I know this is the ultimate cop-out answer, DBlaze75. I could see it going either way, because what I've been able to gather from people I've talked to who I trust, a couple people have told me, hey, the first week of the season could be in jeopardy. Maybe the first couple weeks of the season could be in jeopardy. And that's when things were starting to head in the right direction, because I think it depends on so many factors. It depends on what programs are doing with testing, what the number of cases look like at each school. And, you just saw, I believe it was at Bucknell, which FCS team just pulled out of a game with Navy. I forget which one.
Sam, do you know?
No, another thing that will probably come to us when we're done recording.
Yeah, well, so I think from what I've been told by a couple people in the business have said, look, there could be a situation where obviously health and safety and everybody's well-being is paramount here. And as it gets closer, if you're talking about non-conference games, both programs could be like, you know what, handshake agreement here, doesn't serve us to play this game, and it's
Lafayette College.
Yes, Lafayette. I'm sorry. Lafayette decided to cancel its game with Navy, so now Navy is looking for another game. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have this officially from anybody at Temple, but I mean, if it's getting closer to September 5th and Temple's administration doesn't like what it's seeing down in Florida, I don't know. I think it's on the table. There's nothing imminent yet, but I don't think it's unreasonable for fans and even people in the industry to look around and say, does that game get played? I still think it could. As of now, yes, it's supposed to be played. Could it be up in the air? Are we unreasonable to think that there's a chance that it might not? Sure. Again, I have never seen anything like this. We've never seen anything like this. So I'd love to sit here and say that I've been told unequivocally, yes, no matter what, the game's being played, it's set in stone. But I just think every administration, every school, every college is looking closely at what things are going to look like when players return, what the testing is like at each place. So we'll see what happens there. If not later in the year, I don't know. Later in the year would be if things don't go well and they say we're going to play college football in the spring. I don't know if it would be a situation where Temple would say, okay, we won't play on September 5th, but we'll try to squeeze a game in December. So I don't know. It's a great question. Proverbial gun to my head. I'll try to be optimistic and say yes, but I think you can hear in my voice that I'm still unsure. You guys have any gut feelings on this?
Yeah, I have no authority to say this whatsoever, but honestly, I get the feeling that it's going to have to be pushed back. I don't think they're going to play September 5th. Whether they play that game at all remains to be seen, but I do think we'll get college football in some way this year. And I do think at the very least you will see the conference games, most if not all of them played. But I'm not really, gun to my head, I would go against it just because you've seen all these sports leagues pushing back their start dates and all that. So I feel like you're going to get a pushback start. Maybe the season, but that's where I'm at right now.
I'd say so much is unknown right now that it's hard to give like you're either optimistic or you're pessimistic. But to Sam's point, the whole thought of just playing conference games is an idea that's thrown around if things don't get much better. But the one thing I will say is in this unknown, unprecedented time, one thing that Aaron McKie said that I think kind of applies and makes sense is that what happens in college sports trickles down from what happens in professional sports. And with baseball coming back, with basketball coming back, I think depending on whether or not they can make it to the playoffs and whether they can get through the end of their season or get through a full season will have some kind of effect or impact on the decision that college sports choose to make come September.
Yeah. Second question from DBlaze75. How do you think things play out with the athletic director position? For example, how long does Fran stay on? Does Temple stay internal with the permanent position or go outside? I know it's very fluid and crazy times. The timing for all of this. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Again, if you ask me, and again, Sam Cohen, you were on the press conference on the Zoom call when Fran Dunphy was introduced as the acting athletic director. He didn't sound like a guy who was interested in pursuing the position long term. Did you get that vibe too? He seemed like he was very deferential in talking.
Yeah, he seemed pretty comfortable with the fact that it's a tough position and it's something he's going to need a lot of help with, and he trusts a lot of people around him, and that there is going to be a national search.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the things he said. There are going to be a lot of qualified candidates and stuff like that. So I cannot say, in the interest of full disclosure, I can't say that I've had a ton of or any follow-up conversations with Fran Dunphy about it or Temple's leadership. So does Temple eventually go outside? I think eventually they'll have to, but how long does Fran stay on? Could be 3 months, could be 6 months. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I don't get the impression that, again, all we have to go on is what Fran Dunphy said. Temple's leadership, Temple's president, Richard Englert, approached him. Fran said, I'm generally not a good no-sayer. So I think eventually you have an outside hire, but I don't know if they make the permanent hire. To D-Blaze's question here, does Temple stay internal with the permanent position? I don't think so. And that's not to speak ill of anybody on the current staff, but I think if they get to a point where they say, okay, we're going to do a national search or we're going to do a search for a permanent replacement, I think they will open things up to a national search. But as D-Blaze says here, I know it's very fluid, crazy times. It depends on the institution. If UCLA decided to do a national search amidst the pandemic, Boston College obviously decided to do a national search amidst a pandemic. That was the whole chain reaction of things that led to Pat Kraft going to Boston College. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I could see Fran staying on until at least the end of the fall, but I know we sound like just such wet blankets here because we don't say anything definitively, but I don't know. Never seen anything like this.
I think not that Temple doesn't have, like the resource and firepower of a big program, because, in essence, they do, and they have the possibility to make that search. But if you're putting them on a scale of UCLA and Boston College, I don't think they're going to be as much of a rush to find the replacement. So I think, going on your scale, John, maybe Fran will be on the job, maybe maybe to the end of the fall, really to see if the university is able to get their footing with, the whole COVID-19 pandemic and really, like we said before, filling Pat Kraft's shoes is not going to be an easy job. So maybe they're going to be more meticulous and patient about the search than, some of the fans and other people involved with the program would like them to be.
And I think Fran's going to lean a lot, like he said, on people around him. Whether it's Craig Angelos, a former athletic director, Jessica Rayo, who's Temple's executive senior associate AD right now. I would have to imagine she's playing a huge, huge part in, Temple's student athletes returning to campus. So she's got a lot of experience as well. So also having some experience down at FIU and schools in Florida. So she was at UCF as well. So I don't know. I mean, if again, I think it's even when Fran was a basketball coach, it's not in his nature to be boastful and be arrogant and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, blah, 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 blah. But he's going to have to lean on his support staff as much as possible. And we'll see how this goes. But I don't know. I feel like such a big ball of blah answering these questions because they are tough ones to answer, but good questions nonetheless. And the third question from DBlaze75, if you don't mind a third, we don't. Thank you for asking. Name a player that had a very limited playing time so far for Temple football that breaks out the most this year. Do you guys want to go first? I'll give you mine, or
you can go ahead, and then Sam and I can give ours.
I thought of, again, based on some of what's been told to us on the podcast, whether it's, players or coaches, Leighton Jordan gets mentioned a lot at defensive end. I mean, obviously they have big shoes to fill there just on defense as a whole. Leighton Jordan is maybe like a rush end type of guy from McKeesport High School. I think Adam DeMichael talked about him when we had him on the podcast a few weeks ago. Maybe Edward Sadie or Kyle Dobbins at running back. We know what Ray Davis can do. We know that they added Tavon Ruley. Not that he did a ton last year. He got a couple of late carries. But Leighton Jordan, Ed Sadie, and Kyle Dobbins, I think, are the three names that would come to mind for me.
For me, and this is kind of out of the box thinking here, I think maybe, just looking at the wide receiver position and other than Jaden Blue and Brendan Mack, of course, maybe Kwesi Evans. I know Jose Barbone, we talk about him a lot, but I think maybe Kwesi Evans is a 3-4 wide receiver. You could see him as somebody that stands out. Just what I think and what we've heard.
Interesting pick. I like that, Sam.
Just along the lines of what Adam DeMichael was saying, I'd say he talked a lot about someone on that front seven is really going to step up, and especially that linebacker core, someone's going to come out and be that next guy. But John, as you mentioned, I'd say Ruley or Dobbins could be someone out of that running back room with Jagger Gardner gone and Ray Davis. I mean, Ray Davis can't take every carry, so someone kind of lightening his load.
Yeah, it is a hard question to answer because sometimes people ask us like, well, how do you get a handle on these things? And it really is just as simple as like keeping questions open-ended, and just it's so easy to ask like, who's standing out, who's jumping out to you, and at the end of the day, as spring ball gets to the middle of practice and then the end of that spring season, you hear some of the same names, and we are coming off obviously a time where we had 1 week of media access for spring ball because the pandemic hit in mid-March. So all we can do, I mean, we can talk to coaches here and there, but they haven't really seen it themselves. So it is hard. Normally after you come off of spring ball, you hear names start to come up. You hear, I've said in the past where, at one point Hassan Reddick was a virtual non-factor in the Temple program. He came in as a recruited walk-on who had a history of injuries in high school. At some point, he becomes a first-round draft pick. Nate Harrison was a 2-star recruit, not that notable of a name coming out of, Frederick, Maryland. And then all of a sudden, one year, Matt Rule saying, I think Nate Harrison has a shot. And I'm like, a shot at the NFL? He's like, yeah, I think he's got a shot. So we haven't really heard those names come up as much because we didn't have a lot of spring ball to cover. But I think those will be our best stabs at some names there. But good questions, D. Blaze. Thank you for the questions, the mailbag, and the question for Damian Dunn. Again, big thank you to Damian Dunn for joining us this week. Thank you to the Sams here, to Carolina Sam and Boston Sam. Wait, Sam Cohn, are we
Celtic Sam.
Celtic Sam?
I'll take it.
Celtic Sam and Carolina Sam. Big thank you to the two of you guys. Hope everybody has a safe, happy, healthy 4th of July weekend. Hopefully celebrating with family and friends, being responsible, socially distancing, wearing masks, looking after each other. But thank you for listening. Hopefully this podcast is something you can listen to at the shore or wherever you're hanging out and celebrating. And we will talk to you soon.